Hi, it's Whitney Wiley, and thank you for joining me for Love Your Work. This is where I get to talk to people who do work that they love, and they share their stories and their journey to work they love with you. So today I have with me Amber Griffiths. Hi, Amber. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing, Whitney?
I am good. Now,
Good,
Amber,
good.
you and I don't know each other, right? We
No.
have connected on social media. And
Yeah.
so I don't know a lot about you. At least I don't know about you personally. I've read your bio. And we're going to talk not only about what you're currently doing, but have a little bit of conversation about your journey. So, are you up for this?
I'm totally up for this. Love it. I'm
Awesome.
excited.
Awesome. So, Amber, you're a brand strategist. What exactly is a brand strategist?
Oh, what a great question. Right out of the gate. The brand strategist is really all the thinking, all the planning, all the ideas and concepts behind making sure your brand is put together well, it's on a solid foundation, and actually moves forward to, well, it shows up before you do. It makes sure that they are singing your song long after you have left the stage. And really, you're making sure your brand is profitable for you. There's a lot of people who think, well, I've got my brand because I've got my logo, my colors, my fonts. And there's so much more that goes into it that having a strategy to drive it and build momentum is really critical when it comes to your business.
You know, I was looking at your bio and the picture that you sent, and I love the connection and how you built this theme around music. And as you were just explaining about being a brand strategist, I noticed you weaving in concepts about music in that. So I don't know anything about brand strategy, but I'm going to assume that's a part of it in the actual implementation of implementing a brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that because, like I said, there's so many different moving pieces. It's kind of like I always talk about the pips, making sure you have your own pips, right? You can go out there and you can sing solo, and it's beautiful and it's amazing and it's powerful. But if you can have an entire orchestra behind you, if you can have an entire choir singing harmony behind you, and in a way that is organized, and so that everybody's singing the same song in the same key to the
Right.
same crowd, it just is so much, it's a more complex message and it's full, and it leaves your audience going, that, look what I just experienced. It's not because your solo song isn't gorgeous. There's just more power behind it. There's more oomph behind it when you
And
have
that
that kind of
makes so
success.
much sense. And it becomes about teamwork, right?
Yes.
It requires everyone to do their particular part to make the whole thing work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody gets it. And part of it too is making sure that your team gets to do what they do best.
Right.
You know, you don't pull people in and say, go play this and go do this when they really excel over here. So it really is just saying everybody gets to do their best self and be their best self. And it's going to be an amazing show.
I love that. I love that. And I just love the way you're weaving the concepts together. The other thing I noticed about what you do and the words and phrases that you've used to describe it, you said you take entrepreneurs from unknown to unforgettable and then establish them as legends. Walk us through that process, a summary of that process.
Like, oh, my heartstrings. They Part of becoming legend is being committed to changing the world, but also to creating something greater than yourself.
Yeah.
You can have a rock star brand, you can have an amazing business, but legends, to truly be legend. I mean, if you think of the people, when you think legend, I always go to music, actors, you know, I think of people and politicians. They have this passion project, and sometimes it's an alignment. Sometimes their business and their passion project are right together,
Mm-hmm.
but other times they have this little secret sideline. It's like a side hustle, but that's where they get to pour into the world and really make a change for the difference. And when you become legend, there is something about having your feet solid on that path, and it's your path. that's the other part that I think is really cool. There's no one way to get there. You
Right.
get to decide, claim your voice and claim what you are doing to change the world, and then create that path and move forward, calling people to come with you, not to follow you necessarily, but to be on the path with you, to
Mm.
join you in your movement. And so when you get to become legend, you look around and you have people speaking an entire different vocabulary with you. You have people who are heralding your movement for you. And you realize that there's a ripple effect, and everyone in your wake is different and better and elevated because you showed up as everything you could be. So it's just, I don't know, it's an amazing process. It's really been fun to walk people through this and help them create that for their business and for their movement, for everything they're creating in the world.
The brand that came to mind, and I'm not saying this is yours, I don't know, I'm not, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but the brand that came to mind and the person that came to mind, I think I have the right artist, is the movement Red, right? Bono, right? That was
Oh yeah.
Bono, right? And he's amazing as an artist, a musician and an artist. And then he did this whole other thing over here with the Red products. And if you, as a viewer, remember a few years back, everything had red, and you would get red in the parentheses with these different products that came on board with him in order to raise money for the things, the causes that he was passionate about. So, you know, as of course, when I thought about that at the time, it didn't resonate. And now that you're describing, I was like, oh, okay, I can see that. So you tied some loose ends for me for that. I appreciate that, right? It's
my pleasure.
It's good to be able to learn something every day. It's one of my goals to walk away from the day and put it in my journal that I learned something. So I appreciate that. So you're the creator of Legends. When you were growing up, were you thinking, you know, someday I'm going to help create legends? I'm going to help entrepreneurs turn into legends. Or did you have a different dream when you were young?
You know, I look back, in fact, it's one of those exercises I walk my people through my community and some of my clients, is there are things about my childhood that absolutely prepared me for what I'm doing.
Yes.
I don't think I necessarily thought I could inspire, and I don't think I knew then how my insistent questions, how I could break, I mean, I say break, how I could ask these questions that would make people think differently about what they've been doing forever. I don't think I realized that that's part of what would be becoming legend.
Right.
I always wanted to be on stage. I've always wanted to talk. And one of the things I did debate all the way through high school and college. And at the time, I just thought, well, I just like to argue and I like to talk. And I have all the words that, you know, must say all my words. But I realized part of it is I love having heartfelt conversations about things that I care about, things that matter, and not just to me, but to the world, to other communities. And so I think there is part of that prepared me for it, even though, no, growing up, I didn't think, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a legend maker. That's what I'll do.
It's awesome. And you're right. There are signposts or guideposts or hints along the way that let us know what we can be, what the potentials are, what the possibilities are. And yet, well-meaning as we are, and I did it myself, and I've talked about this with other guests, as parents, sometimes we, in our effort to make sure our kids do something practical, right, reasonable, that will help them earn a living, right?
Right. You must make money.
Right? We navigate them away from something that lights them up, that the universe and their natural gifts are giving clues to. Did you get off track somewhere along the way with what your gifts, your natural gifts are, and end up somewhere else that you had to say, hey, this is not for me.
Oh, I really did. I really did. You talk about those mileposts. I remember when I was very young, I was 4 years old, and my parents moved from a larger town to a very small community. And at one point they looked around and I was gone. They're like, oh my goodness, we've lived in this town for 2 hours. Where the heck is our 4-year-old daughter? The truck wasn't even unpacked. And I had taken it upon myself to meet the neighborhood. I was walking down the houses, house by house, knocking, introducing myself, asking them who they were. Like, I was meeting all the people. And I realized, I'm like, that was part of that. I just want to know you. I assume that I adore you until you show me otherwise. So there is part of that, like, this is what I was intended to do. This is what I was supposed to do. And to that end, I had this job as a pharmacy technician in high school. And it was one of those old shops from like the 50s is what it seemed like, because there was a pharmacy in the back and a floral shop in the back. So pharmacy and flowers. And I loved
That's an
both
odd
things.
Combination I don't think I've ever seen before.
Small town. I mean, there's still no traffic lights in my hometown. I mean, we're small, but I remember thinking, okay, well, this is really what I want to do. And so I got a scholarship and I went to the university and I got a job at the U of U VA hospital, the Veterans Hospital up in Salt Lake City in Utah. And I was going to be a pharmacy technician because I thought, I'm going to be a pharmacist. This is what I really loved. And about 3 months into that, I'm walking around that hospital going, what did I do that led me here? How did I get here? And I realized that pills have no personality. It doesn't matter what the drug is. It doesn't matter what that is. There's nothing there for me. I'm like, what was I thinking? So I quit. I released my scholarship. I moved to a smaller university in Southern Utah. And I remember talking to a professor down there and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, I think what happened is I loved the conversations I had with people when they came in to get their medication. And I loved the stories people had when they came in to get flowers, because I realized I was seeing them at the best and worst times of their lives. They were coming in for an event, right? It's prom, or it's Valentine's Day, or Mother's Day, or it was funeral. They were coming into, and we spent days, I was part of the team that spent days creating these floral arrangements for some memorial service. And it wasn't about the medications. It wasn't about, oh, gee, I should be a pharm tech. I loved the people. I loved hearing their stories. I loved interacting with them. You can learn a lot about somebody when they come in for either pharma. I mean, as much as that's a weird combination, there's a lot of vulnerability in both of those industries. And when I talked to this counselor down at Southern University, he's like, so what do you really like to do then? And we had an entire conversation about what I loved and what lit me up and I started, I was in tears when I went to his office. And by the time he was done, I was bouncing around in his office going, and I could do this and we could do this. And he's like, okay, well, let's talk about changing your major. Because I'd gone from pharmacy to, I think I was going to be an English teacher. Not a thing, just not a thing. Sometimes you just get crazy ideas. So yeah, as I'm walking around the hospital hallways going, how did I get here? It's a really great opportunity I think part of the conversation I had to have with myself, and then I had it later with my father, he's the voice of reason in my head, was, do you keep going because you said you were going to? I had a scholarship, I had a job, I was going to go get my degree, I had all these things in place because this was the puzzle I had put together. Or do I just stop and think, wow, this is so not for me. I need to go do something that fills me up. I need to go do something that I love. And even though, I remember my roommate, she's like, you're just quitting. And she was really angry. And I said, quitting would be staying here. Quitting would be giving up on everything that lights me up, on everything that could make me happy. I am miserable here. It was a very sterile environment that I was in. I mean, literally and figuratively, a sterile environment. So I left it all and changed complete directions. And it has been, there's been other oopsies along the way, but that was a doozy. That was my first big one.
I love that it didn't take you long, though, to figure out there was a disconnect. And the question that you asked yourself, about in the statement to the roommate about quitting would be giving up on what lights you up. I think so many of us get invested in something and we do exactly what you said, which is to stick with something way longer than we should because of the investment we've put into it,
Yeah.
whether it's time or money, particularly if you don't figure it out until after you finish college and you're in your career a couple of years, right? So I'm a lawyer by training or trade. And I know lots of lawyers who stick with the law because they've got law school debt, right? And so
Yeah.
there
Yep.
is this pressure to stick with something to either pay off the college, or you can't move to something else before you paid off the first thing,
Right.
but inside they know whether it is the law in general or this particular area. And it's not just lawyers, it's doctors and pharmacists and people in every industry. And so I just love that you figured it out. And you said you made some other mistakes along the way, and that's fine, because I'm going to assume that as you made those mistakes, you learned yet something else that helped you along your journey. So
Very much so.
what's another mistake that you made in your career that led you to an aha moment that moved you closer to where you are now?
All my skeletons. I think the other one was when I jumped from corporate to being an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So I spent about 9 years in corporate. I was VP of marketing. Isn't that a pretty title? Meant not a whole lot, but it was a very beautiful title. And I worked for a real estate company. And it was huge. We had I had almost 300 realtors at the time. This has been 15 years ago. And I loved it. I had built a team. I built a department. And again, it was kind of one of those, this was I had spent almost 9 years at this particular company. And so it took me a lot longer to decide it wasn't a good fit, but I knew what I loved about it. I knew I loved the people there. I loved hearing their stories about, I had this buyer, this seller, this whatever. And when I finally got tired of helping, I just felt like there was more. Like there's only so many brands you can help build for 3 beds, 2 baths, sun deck. You know what I mean? Like I kept thinking there's got to be more than this. And I had hit that glass ceiling as a woman in corporate and in the 90s and thought this is as good as it gets. I'm going to go do something else. And so when I first launched my business, I thought I'm going to work with men. Men are solid. I seem to work well with them. I'm logical. I can do that. And I created this brand image. Like you should see my logo from 14 years ago. Very straight, cold lines, very deep blue, very corporate, very professional, very not me now. It seemed to fit at the time. I'm a graphic designer, so I could create all my own stuff, which by the way, I would not recommend. It takes forever to do that for your own stuff. But I spent that probably the first couple of years and kept thinking, if I just go to all the corporate networking events and try to figure out how to do this my way without any kind of guidance, without any kind of coach or mentor, I kept thinking something will turn, something will change. And because I didn't know how to talk about branding or marketing, even in a way that was unique, I told people I was a graphic designer because everybody knows what that is, right?
Right.
Everybody knows a graphic designer. And I'm in Utah and we are the scrapbooking mecca of the world. Everybody hears a scrapbooker or knows a scrapbooker or has 20 of them. And so when I would say I'm a graphic designer, they'd nod and go, oh yeah, my sister's a scrapbooker. So the problem with that is that there is an hourly rate that comes with that assumption. There is a done for you practice that comes with that assumption. And it's hard to feel fulfilled when you are put into that little corner and said, this is what I do. so it completely self-inflicted pain and decisions that I thought, well, if I work with men and if I just do design, I can figure this out. But what I had done essentially is created another job
Mm,
without the benefits, without insurance, without all the vacation pay, because I was doing done for you, and it still wasn't fulfilling.
right.
It wasn't lighting me up the way it should. And I spoke to a coach who I'd never even considered. I'm like, I don't need a coach. I know how to brand myself. I know how to do marketing. I don't need a coach. Wrong. And she, again, very similar to my college professor, started walking me through what I really loved to do and what I really didn't love to do and how to talk about words. And I remember there was one time, I want to share this story real quickly. We were sitting at a coffee shop, my coach and I was in tears because I was like, I can't make this work. I can't get ahead financially. I feel like I am just stuck in this rut. And she started telling, she's like, so if you weren't doing this, what would you do? What would you be doing right now? Like, think of this woman who, you could be. And she asked me things like, what would I be wearing? What would I have for lunch? What would I be doing? What was in my purse? Like all these weird, I
Mm,
thought, unattached questions. And then she's like, okay, but what does your day look like? And as I started explaining what that could be, the tears stopped. And again, I got really energetic about it and really excited about it. And I said, and she could do this, and she would be this. And right out of the bat, I was like, I would be a rock star. Just so you know, I would be a rock star. I would be owning my own thing. I would be making my own rules. I would be showing up on stages and with crowds who really were excited to hear me. And as I started babbling about getting excited, finally she leans across the coffee table and she's like, Amber, she's you, you know. And I went,
it's kind of like,
oh,
oh.
it was. I was like, I had no idea how powerful this coffee date was going to be. This is amazing. And I thought, okay, so I can either continue to not talk about myself and talk about my business in a way that matters and settle, or I can really go all in and say, okay, this is what I do. And if you don't know how to talk about it, I will teach you how to talk about it. And I will share with you why it matters. And I will explain why this is the thing that's going to change the world. And there's been iterations, slight tweaks, but that seemed like a huge turning point for me. I kept thinking, I want to be on stage. Like that was a dream from when I was younger, and I wouldn't be on stage. I was overweight, and because we're never good enough.
Right.
And I kept thinking, if I lose weight, I'll get on stage. Once I lose weight, I'll start presenting. And I thought, well, that's silly. I've done that enough. I'm done. And so I went ahead and started speaking. And oddly, I dropped a bunch of weight. I'm like, oh, joy. Joy is the weight loss plan I was looking for. So it really is, I think it's hard to let go of something, even if you know it's not working, even if it feels like there's so much tying you in there, and jumping to the next big thing not everybody gets to cut cold here and move into something new.
Right.
Like that transition is tricky, and it takes team, and it takes support, and it takes a lot of tears and a lot of wee-ha and happy dances in the kitchen. And eventually and every day you get to decide that that's what you're going to still do, every day. So
I love that. Your story is, it's amazing in that you continue to show me that being in touch with what you're feeling and who you are is such a huge key to the transition to doing something that you love. And it becomes about just be it, right? Just
yeah
be the person who does what you want to do. Stop worrying about how you're going to do it or what it's going to look like or what other people think. Just be the person who does what it is you want to do. And that's not a fake it till you make it. That is be that person. And you keep showing that is the essence. And then be joy filled in what you're doing. Wherever you are, be joy filled while you're having vision, while you're figuring it out. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right. Find a happy place, find your happy spot, find your roses, You know, there's going to be days that have roses and days that have thorns, and that's okay. But be sure you find the flowers, be sure you find the joy, and take time to celebrate. One of the
Yeah.
things I teach my clients is you have to celebrate the process. It actually makes the results that much sweeter, but it makes it so that if you celebrate the whole process and take time to look around,
Mhm.
you enjoy the scenery, you make amazing connections, you have the best stories. By the time you get there, you're like, oh my goodness, wait till I tell you what happened. Because you took time to enjoy that process. And I think that we get really caught up, whether it's corporate or entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
we get really caught up in that result. And I'm all about results. But if you are so result focused that you can't enjoy the journey, you have wasted a lot of time. You have missed a lot of opportunity for happiness. And
Absolutely.
honestly, some really great opportunities that wouldn't have been there otherwise. You know, I landed on stage with Erasure. I played keyboards while they toured.
Oh,
If
wow.
I had been so focused on going forward, I would have never taken, just jumped on the plane and gone and done that. I would have just been, no, I'm here and this is Monday and this is what we do. You mentioned something about being in touch with who you really are. And I know we're all familiar with like your zone of genius, your zone of excellence, your zone, your different things. One of the things I have found is that we won't quit our zone of excellence, those things that we're really good at, but they don't light us up, those things that just pay the bill, they don't move you forward. That will drain you more than anything, because
Yes.
we stop doing things we hate doing. We stop doing things that really make us miserable, but we'll sit in that zone of excellence for years because it's okay. It's
It's
fine,
easy,
right?
right? And it's
It's
easy.
easy.
Yes.
It's
And
safe.
you're in
It's
a place,
stable.
where, well, I'm not miserable. I'm not unhappy.
Yeah.
I'm just not lit up.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. It's fine. My parents weren't happy either. My grandparents weren't happy. Like, nobody said this was going to be easy. Nobody said it was going to be fun. Like, but it could be. Oh, but it could be really fun. And but it could be really profitable. And you get to do your best work in your zone of
Right.
genius. And your clients get to have, and people in your tribe, in your community, your team get to do their best work when you are in your zone of genius. So it just makes sense. It's like, oh, that zone of excellence it'll suck your soul.
Right. Right.
It just makes you tired.
And it's interesting you say that. If I'm sure it's in several books, but I certainly remember reading that Gay Hendricks, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Yep.
Big Leap. From The
Yes.
Big Leap, I think.
Yep.
Certainly he talks about it in there. I'm sure others talk about it. And we can easily get stuck there again because we know it's the devil, right? And again, it's okay. It's comfortable. We've
Yep.
paid a price for being there. But the other part, in going back to, earlier, where our well-meaning parents, and I, one of them at one point in my life, this well-meaning, you just need to get a job. You just
Yeah.
kind of need
Yeah.
to, figure out something that you can do and be a productive member of society.
Yes.
And
Yes.
coming to a place in my own life where probably in that zone of excellence is like, well, I could do this the rest of my life, but this is not working for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the pivoting because now it takes energy, right? To move, to
Yeah.
shift, to pivot to something else. Whereas in our natural inclination is for easy, right? Our brain is trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
protect us, looking for
Exactly.
easy. And in order to do something else, that means one, we probably have to start all over again, right? Which means going from maybe an expert at something or being really good at something in that zone of excellence to having to start at the bottom and rebuild.
Yeah.
And who wants to do that?
Yeah.
Right? Who
Yeah.
wants to take the time to start at the bottom and have to be a beginner again?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the inertia, that the energy that it takes to shift that becomes our greatest enemy, because we just, at the end of the day, whatever that day looks like, however soul sucking it was, at the end of the day, and because it was soul sucking, we just want to go home and have a cocktail or veg on
Exactly.
Netflix or whatever,
Exactly.
whatever it is.
Yes. Like, I'm too tired to be amazing today. Can't I just be okay today? Can't this just be a day? I I totally hear you. There's such uncertainty. You have to have energy to be brave. You
Yes,
really do. And it takes extra. I mean, they talk about everything you've done so far has gotten you here. So
yes,
you get to do something different, something new, something more to get you to the next place, wherever that next place is for you. That takes energy, and that takes guts, and that takes confidence.
yes.
And I think that if you can take that first action, action is going to boost your confidence, and confidence builds momentum. And then you really do get in a flow and start moving forward. Every single day, there's something new. I mean, there's always a new place. There's always a new level. There's always a new connection. There's always, you talked about learning. There's always something new to learn. Otherwise, life is going to get really boring.
Right.
I don't want to know everything all the time, because otherwise I'm never surprised. And I like being surprised. I like the excitement of that. Let's try something new. And the really great part too, Whitney, is that you don't always necessarily start over, because you have all the skills and expertise and tools that you have accumulated so
Right.
far that you get
Right.
to take with you this next time.
That is
Even if it's a totally
true.
new industry,
That is
totally
true.
new job, you're like, but look at how much better prepared I am. I can avoid those pratfalls. I can avoid those holes. I can not have that conversation and not have
Very
that
good
joint
point.
venture partner that bit me in the butt. Like, there are ways to, I talk about it, it's like being a spiral staircase, because we work about, I mean, and in my life is very much one of those where I get, I'm like, I thought I already handled this crap. I thought I'd already dealt with making sure I was in my joy and doing what I love to do. And here I am doing something I don't love to do again. How do I get past
It's
that?
a continuous
But as,
process. Yeah.
yeah, if you're going around in circles, as long as you're moving up, then you take all those tools and skills with you. So you're like, I know this part. I know how to do this better. This isn't going to hurt as bad. This isn't going to take as long to get through. We are going to get through this together. Let's just go.
I
So,
love that
yeah.
analogy, a spiral staircase, because you're right. From one angle, it looks like you're going in circles, but from a different angle, you are constantly moving up, and that is a good thing. So the other thing in that is being willing to learn something new, right? But having a mindset of always being willing will help to combat that being stuck in your zone of excellence, right? Is just adopt a mindset of continuous learning, continuous improvement, and you'll already be doing that, so you don't have to fight inertia, because
Yeah.
you're already doing that.
Absolutely. The momentum already has you moving forward, already
Yeah.
has you moving up. Just keep swimming, just keep going. It's one of those, on that road to legend, don't stop. There are lots of opportunities for you to just stop and think, this is too hard, this is too scary, I got distracted, jangly keys, whatever. But if you look at it instead as a small pause, I'm just going to take my breath, I'm going to look around and enjoy the scenery, make sure I'm still focused in the right direction, and then I'm going to get up and I'm going to keep moving forward. It's the only way to do it otherwise I think you become stagnant.
Yeah.
And that's really when you start getting discouraged, and where nothing is, like, you lose your joy. You really do.
Absolutely. So, Amber, what do you think is the biggest or the best lesson that you've learned throughout this whole process, or one of the two biggest lessons that you've learned throughout this process?
I think one of the biggest ones was I just got reminded of it a couple weeks ago. And that is, you cannot compare your journey to anyone else's. You
So
cannot
good.
compare your progress. You cannot compare your business. I remember in high school, I had this really snarky t-shirt. I thought it was snarky. I thought it was funny. That said, I'm not afraid of the competition. I just don't see any. I didn't realize it was going to affect my whole life. I didn't realize it was going to become my mantra, but it really is true. I think we get stuck in, well, what are they doing? And oh my goodness, they're doing it faster. And we started at the same time and they're ahead of me. Who cares? It doesn't change your journey.
Right.
Their progress doesn't change your journey, and it doesn't lessen the results. It doesn't weaken anything other than it's a total waste of time and energy to compare. Your results, your top of the mountain is still going to be amazing. The view is still going to be incredible.
Right.
And the rewards are going to be huge. It doesn't matter how many people got there first. You are not the first one. So just let that go.
Right.
That's a delusion. That's a story. Let it go. Enjoy your journey and don't compare yourself to other people on the path. Just love it and experience it and realize that this is yours. And there's nothing that can take that away from you unless you give it away by comparing.
That's such a good point. Such an absolutely good point. And so as our parting thought, would you share with our viewers, if someone were interested in becoming a brand strategist, a legend maker, of course, they're not going to do it like you because there's only one Amber Griffith. And so they have to do it their way. But if you could impart a piece of wisdom to someone who is looking to be a brand strategist, what is some wisdom that you would share?
Ask questions. Ask good questions. And don't have a preset answer when you ask the questions. You know, if somebody says, how are you? Realize, be sure you're the one when you say, how are you? You're waiting for the answer. And that's a really simple base question, but I think it really sets a foundation for how we ask the other questions. Ask a question and wait for the answer. Because strategy is about, it's not always having the answers. You don't have to have all the answers as a strategist. You just get to help clear away some of the cobwebs and clear the path. And part of that too means you are more likely to see the opportunities in what's going on, because you get to be, you know, like I said, I like being surprised, but I ask a lot of questions. I look around, I notice little things. So ask questions and then listen. Listen for the way people talk. They will tell you how to help them. They will tell you what they need, even if that's not the words they use.
Right.
They'll share everything. You just get to listen.
Well, Amber, it's been amazing chatting with you. I appreciate you making the time and coming and talking about not just brand strategy and the work that you're doing. I love your energy. I told you that before we got started. I love your energy. The fact that you love your work exudes from you. And I think that's amazing. And so I appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey, your wisdom. I think you're awesome. And if anyone is, if you are interested in talking with Amber about brand strategy for your business, she works with entrepreneurs. Again, she takes them from, you know, invisible to unforgettable to legend. Who doesn't want to be a legend in what they're doing? Who doesn't want that? And if you want that for your business, you can reach Amber through her LinkedIn page, and the information is in the post along with this video. So again, Amber, thank you very much for coming on Love Your Work. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much for letting me come play. This has been absolutely a joy. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your space.
And for you, have a great rest of your day. And until next time on Love Your Work, love your work. Just decide you're going to love your work. Just do that. All right. Take care. And I'll see you next time. Bye.